जय जगन्नाथ, जय बलदेव, जय सुभद्रा माई की, सुदर्शन भगवान की जय, पंच तत्व की जय, चैतन्य निताय की जय, वामन देव की जय, परशुराम भगवान की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, गुरुदेव की जय। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So we are in Purushottama Yoga, the yoga of the Supreme Person. Today we will see the verse number 13. गामविश्य च भूतानि धारयाम्यह मोजसाम् पुष्टामि चौषधी सर्वा सोमो भूत्वा रसात्मकः। गामविश्य च भूतानि धारयाम्यह मोजसाम् पुष्टामि चौषधी सर्वा सोमो भूत्वा रसात्मकः। I enter into each planet and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of the life to all vegetables. So very important verse today. So Krishna is actually trying to give us the knowledge in a systematic way. Basically, if you see, he started telling about the material world as a reflection of a spiritual world by comparing the material world with banyan tree, reflected banyan tree. And he said it is a deep rooted banyan tree. So it is very much important that we cut that banyan tree with the weapon of detachment, which means we have to have no attachment to this material world. This is what he is trying to tell in first 3 verses. And then he said it is very important to cut, but what will happen if you cut and what will happen if you don't cut? This is something that he has mentioned further from verse number 5 onwards. So he says there is a spiritual world and one can attain that spiritual world if you develop certain qualities. And that qualities are first important to surrender unto Krishna. Once you are developing those qualities, then we can surrender unto Krishna and we can attain spiritual world in Krishna. This is Purushottama Yoga. So then what will happen if you don't surrender? What will happen if you don't attain spiritual world? Then he started telling about the material miseries that one will actually suffer in this material world. We will be taking birth, death cycle again and again, and we don't ever come out of this material world because of the attachments that we have in this material world. He also said about a spiritual world, one point very important, that spiritual world does not require sun, moon, and fire. So self-sufficient spiritual world he was talking about. Self-sufficient spiritual world cannot be attained by the one who is having attachment in this material world. This is what he clearly mentioned. Why we are not able to understand this? That we are having an attachment to this material world, and due to this attachment, we are not able to understand that from which body we came into this body, and from this body to which body we are going to. This is not something that we generally don't understand. So Krishna is saying that only the fools cannot understand this fact. So then who can understand? So the person who has jnana chakshu only can understand this. That means whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all these things. So then he started mentioning about who will have such a jnana chakshu, and who actually sustained in a self-realization can see all this clearly. So this is something that he has explained to us. So until 11th verse, Krishna talked about how the soul is struggling in this material world. This is what he has spoken. So now from the 12th verse onwards till 15th verse, he talks about, I mean, he shifted from the jnana section to the bhakti section. And we are in this material world and we need so many things for our enjoyment. Although we are struggling, but we don't realize that. And we think that we are enjoying. So we need so many things that we are enjoying. So how are we getting all these things that we are enjoying in this material world? So that we need to understand. So from 12th verse onwards, Krishna started telling his role in this material world. So in 12th verse, he said about his role in the complete cosmology. He said he is the splendor of the sun, and he said he is the splendor of the moon and fire as well. And the 13th verse, today's verse. So what is Krishna's role in the planet of Earth? This is what he's talking about in this verse. And in the coming two verses, like 14th verse and 15th verse, he will be describing the Krishna's role in physiological. He will describe the physiological role. That means how he is sustaining the physiological existence. This is what he is going to talk in the next verse. And in the 15th verse, he will describe about physiological and spiritual role. So this is something that we are going to learn in this section from verse number 12 to verse number 15. So basically what is he saying? He is saying that the complete universe is maintained by Krishna in 12th verse. And in the 13th verse, he is telling that in this universe, we are there in one of the planet. So that means he is trying to tell that the planet is also maintained by Krishna. And in the 14th verse, he is telling that the jiva is living in a body on this planet in this universe. That means he is trying to say that the maintenance of this jiva is also by Krishna. That he is going to declare in 14th verse. Then, for us to live in this body, we need a mind. And even this mind is controlled by Krishna. This is what he is going to tell in 15th verse. That means in a hierarchical order, the universe maintained by Krishna, the planets are maintained by Krishna, and the body in which we are living is maintained by Krishna, and the mind with which we are living is also maintained by, controlled by Krishna. So basically in this section, there is a controller who is controlling the complete material universe. The purpose why he is sustaining this universe is he wanted our consciousness to take out from this material reality to the spiritual reality and attain Krishna. That is the theme of the complete 15th chapter, Purushottama Yoga. So if we don't elevate ourselves from this material consciousness to the spiritual consciousness, we don't attain spiritual world. So that is the reason Krishna is giving us the knowledge that even the material world in which we are exist is actually controlled and maintained by Krishna. This is what we will be understanding this. Once we have this understanding, probably we will surrender to Krishna and attain Krishna. This is the intention of Krishna for why he is giving this knowledge to us. In the previous verse, he said, the splendor of the sun, moon, and the fire is because of Krishna. If we remember in the verse number 6, he said, spiritual world does not require sun, moon, and fire. So there is a correlation between the 6th verse and 13th verse. 12th and 13th verses. So what is he saying? For the spiritual world, sun, moon, and fire is not required, whereas for the material world, sun, moon, fire are required. So that's the reason he's saying for the material world, the sun splendor, moon splendor, and the fire splendor is because of me. So this is something that we need to note. So, so these three elements are required for sure in this material world for our existence. In today's verse also, he is telling two important points. The first important point that he is telling is that I enter into these planets, and by my energy, they stay in their orbit. So this is very, very important. So what is our general understanding how these planets are staying in the orbit? Our general understanding is that the gravitational force is something that is holding this complete planetary system in their orbits. That means they are together. They are there in their orbit only because of gravitational force. This is the understanding of every human being that we have, because we believe in science and the scientists said this. And Newton is the one who actually discovered that there is a gravitational force, and due to this gravitational force, the complete universe exists. So Newton is not an atheist, but he has done some research on the space. So we can consider him as a theistic scientist. So what did he say? He said there is a gravity for sure. There is a gravity for sure, but he does not explain. He did not explain the source for this gravity. How this gravity exists? Where did this gravity came from? Then he said there is some energy beyond the science that science can understand. So we can say that Newton or Einstein are not the scientists who are like a atheistic scientists. These are theistic scientists. Although they have done some research, beyond their research, there is something, some power, some energy exists that they agreed. But there are some atheistic scientists also. These atheistic scientists like Stephen Hawking, he has invented or maybe discovered a funny phenomena. And he says that this planet is not a correct planet for a human being to live. And he says that we have to find out an atmosphere in some other planet where we can live, so that we can live without birth, old age, and death. This is a foolish phenomenon, and this is something like a funny thing that he has invented or he has discovered, whatever you can say. And he wanted all the human beings to be shifted from this earth to that planet so that everyone can live happily. So else we all will enter into the problems. But in this material world, from the Brahma's planet to the all three planetary systems, there is no place where we can live without birth, death, old age. This is confirmed. And even Brahma Samhita, Brahma agreed this. So every planet was kept in the respective positions by God. This is what something we need to understand. It did not come by chance. If the earth would have been little closer to the sun, then we cannot live in this earth. We cannot sustain for the heat that we get on this earth. Let us say if the earth is little away from the sun, then also it could have been so cold that the life could not sustain in this earth. That means earth is situated in exact orbit where a living entity can live. There is no other planet where the living entity can have this kind of environment, exactly the environment where it can live. Similarly, there are other planets which are actually functioning their roles and responsibilities, like Jupiter. Jupiter is situated in a place where actually it is required to be situated. Jupiter sucks the things that are coming towards the earth. So let us say if there is any element, any object which is coming towards the earth, which is first has to come towards the Jupiter. After crossing the Jupiter, it should come towards the earth. So if there are anything that is shooting towards the earth, a Jupiter will suck it. It's like a cosmological vacuum cleaner, Jupiter. So like that, every planet which is there in this cosmology has a special role to play to sustain the life in the earth. That is the most important thing that we need to understand. When Krishna say, it is my energy to which everything is working. So that we have to understand, we have to agree Krishna. So all glories to Krishna. So in Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma said, Andantarastha Paraman Chayantarastam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That means he says Krishna entered into the every atom of this universe and he is maintaining it. If he does not maintain it, then the universe will collapse. Say, for example, we are floating in the water only because we have soul in this body. A soul is not there in this body, then the body will become heavy. We cannot carry the body. If you drop it in a water, it will sink. So as long as the soul is there, a spiritual spark is there in the material body, only then it can float. In the same way, in this material existence, a spiritual spark is required for its survival, for its sustaining. So that spiritual spark is Krishna. Krishna says, I am entering this material universe. That means he is holding the complete material universe, just like the way we are holding a sand particles in our hand. And as long as we hold the sand particle in our hand, the sand particle will remain in our hand. As soon as we leave the sand particles onto the air, then it will fall down. It will scatter. In the same way, the whole planetary system was held by Krishna in his universal form. So this is something that Krishna is telling. Even in Bhagavad Gita chapter number 7, verse number 7, Mai sarvamidham proktam sutre maniganaiva. Everything rests upon me as a pearl or strung onto the thread. So this is, he has already declared. Again and again he is saying, so that we all will realize it and we all will understand it. There is Krishna who is actually maintaining this world. So we think that the design has come, this material design has come by chance. No, there is a designer behind this design. So we need to understand this. So we are launching satellites and making these satellites go into their orbits and do whatever the functions that we are expecting from that satellite to do. And as soon as we launch the satellite into the orbit, we all will clap, we all will celebrate, and we will even glorify the people who actually involved in launching the satellite into the orbit. And maybe the government will also award them just not only glorifications, they will also award them. Just one planet, one satellite, launched into one orbit deserves this much glorification, then how much glorification Krishna requires when he designed this material universe, and he made all the planets situate in their respective orbits and function, each and everyone's role, especially to ensure that the living entity on this earth lives happily. So, so all glories to Krishna. So Krishna is the one who is the root cause for this material universe existence. So we don't understand this. When we understand this, every minute, every second, we glorify Krishna. So then the next concept that Krishna is telling in this verse is, I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of the life to all vegetables. So please understand that moon is the reason for the taste in the vegetables and the fruits. But our understanding as per the science is that the sun is the root cause. Without sunlight, a tree cannot nourish. A tree cannot give fruit. But a photosynthesis or whatever the philosophies that we all know, maybe the fact, maybe that is the fact. But Krishna is telling here that the taste in the vegetables and the taste in the fruits is because of the moon, and that moon is by Krishna. The energy of that moon is by Krishna. This is what he is declaring in this verse. So there is a scientific study that has already started to understand how the taste is there in the vegetables and the fruits. Then they started. They are trying to, see how the trees are nourishing with moonlight and without moonlight. And they understood that the fruits that are coming with moonlight and without moonlight have a different taste. And the trees which have grown in the moonlight and gives the fruits, that fruit taste is much more, higher taste compared to the fruit taste which has grown without moonlight. So this proves that whatever was said in these scriptures, whatever was said by Krishna in this Bhagavad Gita is proven to be right, even scientifically. So even in Srimad Bhagavatam, if you see, there is a section that comes about Prachetasas. Prachetasas are the sons of Prachina Barhi. And these Prachetasas went for some austerity into the underwater. And they have done austerity for thousands years, maybe some 10,000 years they have done austerity. And once they impress Lord Krishna, and they got benediction, and they came out of the water. When they came out of the water, they found the complete earth is filled with the trees, and there is no one to rule, because his father Prachin Barhi has taken sannyasa because of preachings that Narada gave to Prachin Barhi. Don't even wait till Prachetas come back. So you have already done enough sins in this earth. It is time for you to purify yourself. So Prachina Barhi went for Vanaprastha. So the time when Prachetas came onto the earth, they found that the complete earth is filled with trees, and they were angry. So they wanted to, cut all the trees. When they wanted to cut all the trees, they started cutting. At one point of time, if they were not stopped, they will cut entire trees in the earth. So then that time, moon god came, and he said, I am the demigod for the moon, for the trees. So if you start cutting these trees just like this, no one can live in this earth. Cut to the extent of requirement that human beings can live. Let us say we want to live, we have to construct houses, we want to construct some basic needs. So for that, how much ever required, that much only trees we should cut. Beyond that, we should not cut. That too, we should cut a tree which does not give fruit and vegetable. We should cut only the trees which does not give fruits and vegetables. So this is what a moon god said. So this also proves from scriptures that moon is the demigod for the trees. So this is what is proven even here by Krishna's words, that moon is the reason for the vegetables and fruits taste. So we need to understand this fact and understand that Krishna is the root cause for our entire universe. So human brain is very, very small, just half kg brain. So we cannot understand many things that are there in this material universe. So even scientists could not understand and they gave up. So then what should we do? We should accept God's existence, and we should accept that the God has designed this design and he is the one who is maintaining it. So we should understand this and surrender to him. This is something that we need to understand from today's verse. Let us see tomorrow about Krishna's role in physiological existence. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Thank you very much, Matajis, Prabhujis. Any questions, feedback?